yourself a squat and find yourself a fly. Get ready for the show, for better or for not, with the topics most ill and the hosts most deaf. Tune in, plug in, then take a slide to the left. Hey Craig, how you doing? How's it going, Dad? That joke I'm never gonna stop.
That never gets old.
It gets old, but Sam's never gonna stop.
Very good, very good. So I say we jump right into the real good business. And how was everybody's weekend?
It was good. It was a good time.
Yeah, it was fine.
Fine. Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it.
Yeah.
My friend, tell me about your protestation experience.
Who, me?
Yeah, the only other person that's been to one.
Oh, I listen. Bill is your friend. I didn't know if he was protesting as well.
I know. I'm just being a twat.
It was good. We went to well, I guess for the sake of being anonymous as much as possible, I won't reveal the town, but it was a town that I used to reside in, and it was, it's a town that isn't incredibly diverse and also has a relative reputation for being a little racist. The showing was rather impressive, and I'm quite proud of them.
Right on. Was it mostly old people?
No, it was actually very varied. There was a lot of young people, a lot of, it was all over the place in terms of age and ethnicity. And even, I mean, personally, I don't live in that town now, but I was there because I did live there, and I saw some people that I recognized from the neighboring town.
Cool.
And yeah, so it was very impressive. There was a bunch of speakers. What was that?
Any mace?
No mace. The police were there with tear gas masks on their hips.
Holy shit! Really?
In case.
I think he was referring to Mace Windu.
Yeah, obviously. I meant is Samuel L. Jackson there?
Was Samuel L. Jackson there? That's what people want to know.
The real question is,
Star Wars garb.
Is Mace Windu dead, or did he survive the fall and become a clone trooper? These are really.
I don't know what you're referring to because the movie you're referencing doesn't exist.
What?
I deny the existence.
You deny the existence of probably one of the better Star Wars movies?
Oh, get the fuck out of here!
I don't know.
Wait.
Are you trying to tell me that you think one of the prequels is one of the better Star Wars movies?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm telling you.
Are you saying that Samuel L. Jackson came back as a clone trooper in a? I'm so confused right now.
Listen, it's just a joke I saw online.
He's just asking about the continuity of like the Star Wars timeline. Like, did Mace Windu survive the fall? I contend that he never fell because
no, dude, he fell out of a pretty high Windu.
Yeah, but
listen, I always operate by Game of Thrones logic. If you do not see the death, it is not confirmed.
Oh my god! Fell out of a pretty high window. Oh my god!
But see, I would agree with that in the Star Wars universe as well, because we saw Darth Maul get cut in half,
right?
And he came back.
When did he come back?
He was in he's in the TV series for one. For two, he's in the it's either the end scene or the post-credit scene of Solo.
Oh, well, don't all of those things happen before the prequels?
No. Solo takes place like immediately after the end of the third movie.
Really?
Yeah,
that's fucking stupid that he comes back. He's cut in half. Like, what the fuck?
Well, because he's got robot legs.
The entire universe revolves around people who control objects with their mind and
yeah, that's why I'm saying Mace Windu probably had a force fall.
Listen, we got very off topic very quickly on Star Wars.
It's okay. So let me tell you about my protest experience. It was more or less the same. More or less the same. Completely peaceful. Really a beautiful display of oneness with my fellow Americans. I mean, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, sorry to exclude Bill from the conversation for a second.
No, I actually nailed 95 Theses to the door of the IRS building.
Right on.
And it was glass, so it shatters.
Well,
just post
listen,
it up
if they call you now, That's
just
a scam.
no, I'm just like just some guy rolling up to the front of the IRS building with a hammer, a nail, paper, and then
glass.
just lining up the nail onto the pane of glass, and then just like kind of like and then just like walking to a Walgreens across the street, like, hey, you guys have any tape? And then just like taping it up.
I just imagine like it's you walking up to the glass, like, because you're an idiot that tries to like hammer it into glass, and you just do it, and then as soon as you hammer it, it cuts to the people watching you from the inside, and the glass just collapses, like, and you're just like,
dude, dude, that's a sketch right there. Just like a single, like it's just a singular shot. Like some guy pulls up to the front of the building in a car, walks up, like, and then just. And then just tapes it on and leaves.
And then it cuts. No, because what would the IRS say to you after doing that? They would tell you it's coming out of your paycheck.
Hey, we're gonna take your money for that.
Even if you didn't work there, it's coming out of your paycheck.
I mean, I didn't actually do that because dude, listen. We had a conversation about this yesterday. You never know when people are gonna take you seriously, no matter how ridiculous your statement is.
That's true.
That's true.
Very true.
I told my mother that the way that they're going to be reopening, not only are they going to do it all at once, they're going to be placing speakers every quarter of a mile, and at the time that it is set to reopen, they're going to play the soundbite of Kevin Bacon shouting "Let's dance" on loop. And she's like, I don't know where you heard that. I haven't heard that at all.
In fairness, if she's your mother, though, like, she might just not even. You probably have primed her to not believe half these things.
No, but like, she shouldn't even be giving it credence with such a question.
It's like
there's a lot of things that we shouldn't give credence. If you put me 10 years ago and you showed me any news headline from right now, I probably wouldn't believe it at all.
Yo, fair enough, man. Fair enough. But what I was gonna say was, at the exclusion of Bill from the conversation for like a minute. Sorry.
It's okay. I had my own protest.
Fair enough.
This part of the conversation has been redacted.
I am tragically bereft of context right now, but I
just wanted to air my grievance.
No, but I've had a similar experience, and this is where I have a problem with the left. Not in general, but it seems to be a larger problem on the left than the right. Is that
it's a monolith?
Yes, it
attempts to be.
A lot of people on the left tend to let good be the enemy of perfect.
You mean the other way around?
Yes, I do mean the other way around. Like those things. Like, yeah, it's the reversible binomial.
We gotta close the gates on Bill now. He just fucked up.
You fucked up, man. You can't speak anymore.
Well, I'm canceled.
Can't. He just left. Does that mean I'm gonna get two different files for you now? God damn it.
No, you shouldn't.
Okay.
But you probably shouldn't. But you might.
Okay.
But you can just one will stop where the other begins.
I know, it'll just end.
Yeah, but it's interesting that we're talking about protest, because the topic that we kind of hashed out for tonight was something that's often used as a form of protest, and that's voting.
No matter who.
Voting in general.
Well,
voting in general.
Before we transition to voting, I would like to make one comment about what you just said, like the problem with the left, because I agree with that, right?
Yeah.
Like the issue with the left is like this unity issue where like we only ever seem to have a good agreement about things like opposed to, like we're opposed to this, we're opposed to that. We have general things that we agree on as a group.
Yep.
Like we're much like inclusive and such like that, but opposed to is like, and I would say the right has the same thing. They're just more opposed to certain things, but the left just tends to be more like nitpicky.
Absolutely.
Certain things. Like the right is totally willing to surrender whatever morality they have as long as they fucking win. They're like a football team. Like they're like, yeah, whatever. I'll fucking break my leg.
You mean no? They're like the New England Patriots, sir.
Oh, well, that's a football team. If I'm
but that's a football team that cheats.
They all cheat.
Or the Houston Astros.
Dude, they all the cheat. I actually had this argument with a buddy of mine who's a Pats fan, and he was like, "Nuh-uh, like the Patriots don't even cheat the most out of all the football teams." I'm like, "What? That's not a terrible argument in favor of your team."
They don't cheat the most.
Yeah, but I was like, yeah, they don't cheat the most, but they fucking win all the time. So like, if you're cheating effectively, but just not the most. Anyway,
are you talking about short tattoo friend?
Yes.
Greased up deaf guy.
Greased up deaf
Greased up
guy.
deaf guy.
I'm back, America. Yeah, I just wanted to point out that I just felt a little slighted, and
No, listen, I got you on that. I was actually able to have a decent conversation where I feel like I got through that, because my whole point was like, what if like I wanted to join the Keystone what was it, Keystone Pipe? No, it was
Keystone Pipeline.
The
The
Keystone
protests of it?
Pipeline protests, right? And I tried to show up there, and like a bunch of Native Americans were like, "Oh, well, you like, I just want to make sure you're going there for the right reasons." I'd be like fucking furious. I'd be like, "What the fuck is like? I'm here.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
willing to get
because
beat up by the
actually,
police."
you know what? That's actually a great analogy because why it's a great analogy is because this, oil pollution and not oil pollution. You know what I mean? Like pollution in general is something that affects everybody. And yet, in
Right.
that particular example, it's disproportionately affecting Native American people. I am
Right.
perfectly well within my rights to go to that under the auspices of I'm against pollution. Just like
Right.
I'm perfectly able and allowed to go to a protest for something that's disproportionately affecting black people and say, I'm here to protest the general thing, that police should not
Right.
be beating the shit out of people.
Well, see, here's the thing. You don't get to say black rights are human rights and then exclude humans.
Right.
I understand the mentality, though. I get it. I understand the posters that say, all lives can't matter until Black lives matter. Like, I understand.
Yes.
I've heard the analogies, right? It's like someone at a table with no food saying, I don't have any food, I deserve to eat. And then everybody with platefuls of food say, we all deserve to eat. And then they just eat without helping the person with no food. I get it. I get that saying Black Lives Matter is not at the exclusion of everybody else. But that doesn't mean that I have to lay down my sword of justice because I don't automatically curtail all of my perspectives to fit a certain narrative. Like, I'm against police brutality because police brutality is wrong. I'm against racism because racism is wrong. But I think that there's some level of like, if you don't exactly agree with every aspect of this perspective, then you're not welcome. And I'm like, okay, well then what? How do you expect more people to join the protest, right? How do you expect more people to agree with you if you're gonna pigeonhole every little aspect of someone's perspective? I don't know, and it just irked me. Like ugh.
You just summarized the perfect problem with the left, 100% right there. Like you just nailed it right on the head. Like,
Which it's a pretty good analogy for voting because a lot of people are unified by their protest against, but when there's a diversity of what there's a diversity of what they're proponents for, which often leads to splintering among the left, which you see in how the left typically votes as a block.
Right.
Yeah.
So you know what? This might be a good time to, I guess, maybe self-identify ourselves with the best
absolutely, because we
possible...
haven't done that yet.
Yeah,
so.
with the best possible choice. Because I don't always agree with everything that people under my label say, and I'm sure that you guys feel the same way.
So why don't we just go down the line and we'll just go alphabetical order because that's what we chose our usernames to be. And Bill, why don't you just give a general overview of your political person, or we could steel man each other. We could do that instead.
Well, I think
Steelman is that
if our name is going to be slides to the left, I should go last because I'm definitely the
That's
furthest
true.
left.
That's true.
I'm the furthest left.
Have you never heard that phrase, steelman?
No, I haven't.
It's the opposite of straw man. It's when your opponent, or not your opponent, but like somebody else in the conversation does their best to explain your perspective in the best light possible.
I quite like that. We should have done this last episode.
Well, we didn't really talk about our things from our political perspectives last episode.
You're right. We talked about Harry Potter, which I'd argue
we did talk about Harry Potter,
which
a little more important, honestly, than other things. So if you want, well, sorry.
That's all right. We got it.
Electric Thong doesn't really know your perspective as well as I do. So shall I take a shot at it, or would you prefer to just go over it yourself, Bill?
No, you have at it. Have at it, buddy.
And so the whole point is I'm going to do my best, but then you just correct any of the other aspects.
Yeah.
So Bill is nominally, I would say, the thing that I've heard him call himself most of the time is democratic socialist. But I have a feeling that he probably aligns more in reality with social democracy, the distinction being that democratic socialism is socialism in the sense that you want either probably worker-owned means of production, not government-owned means of production, but with the aspect of the people being able to, say, democratically be involved in the workplace, et cetera, having more direct democracy in government, whereas social democracy is what more I would call myself and what I think Bill represents more, which is a well-regulated capitalistic system with a strong social safety net that essentially raises the bottom from far above what it is in the United States in particular. He's a Bernie supporter that otherwise, if not given a good decision based on the Democratic side, which is sort of an unfortunate default that a lot of us have to, align ourselves with, given the person that we were supporting, he would more often than not vote for someone who's probably libertarian because he's aware of the fact that they won't take away his rights. But to give you a quick foray into his perspective, but he's, for universal health care, probably free public college tuition, if I had to take a guess. And for a much more well-regulated capitalistic system that involves a lot less money in politics. And I nominally agree with that.
Yeah, you pretty much hit the nail on the head. If you're talking, I mean, I guess the things that I would want to add, not necessarily correct, are my views on various kind of like topical bits.
Well, I mean, I tried not to be detailed because that would take too long.
Like,
but feel free to fill in the details.
I mean, as far as like gender and sexuality stuff kind of go, I don't. That's one of those cases where, as a cissexual straight white dude, I'm not in any sort of. I don't.
I think you just combine cisgender and heterosexual.
Yes, cishet.
Oh yeah. I don't know
So,
why, but that word just sounds really piercing to me, and I don't like it.
Because it's like I am Pharaoh Cishet the seventh.
That's funny as fuck.
But
go on.
But yes, so I'm not in any way a minority in that sense, but I consider myself an ally in that I generally agree with the zeitgeist of the LGBTQ plus community on those issues. When you say I'm libertarian, I'm like the.
I didn't say I didn't.
No, but when you say libertarian leanings, I'm like the legalized polygamy kind of libertarian when it comes to social, like when it comes to social issues. Like, hey,
yeah, like really do whatever you want with your own body as long as it's everybody's consenting and stuff.
Yeah, like as long as none of your siblings, or as long as nobody's siblings that you're reproducing with, which is really where I draw the line. Like, because that's just that's science tells you that's objectively bad.
I hate to be the guy to come out
in favor of incest.
Don't do it.
In favor, but like, come on, it's like, okay, it's a little weird to talk about, but if you've got, I get if it's not like a father-daughter situation, like that's a power imbalance. But say you have literally, like, take it to its most logical extreme.
Yeah,
you've got, and I know we're totally getting off topic here, but I'm just curious as to your perspective. Say you've got a male, and it doesn't have to be, of course there could be gay twins, but say for the sake of simplicity, we have a male and female fraternal twin pair. You couldn't get more equal in the familial ladder than that, and then they become 18 consenting adults. Say even if they're older than 25. Yeah. Are they not allowed to engage in a consensual relationship?
As long as they don't reproduce, because at that point you're the possibility that you're bringing into the world a human life that full well is going to be statistically disadvantaged. Like, and this isn't even to say anything about if through prenatal screening that a child is going to be disadvantaged. This is saying because you're siblings, before any sexual contact takes place, that the child that you produce has a statistically greatly increased likelihood of having a much more difficult life than any child deserves to have.
Yeah, like ostracization just based on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so take that out of the picture. Do two consenting fraternal twins, should they be allowed to have a sexual relationship? Because I mean, like,
as long as reproduction, as long as they take reasonable means to avoid conception, I mean, it's ewy, but
it is ew, right? But that's what a lot of people said about gay people.
But that's not my problem.
Nope, it's not my problem, and that's the libertarian aspect, and I just wanted to get that out of you.
It's ooey, but it's ooey, and if you say that you do that, I might not be necessarily comfortable.
Oh,
but
don't worry. My only
gonna
sibling is my only sibling is a 30-year-old man. I promise you, I'm not.
I'm never gonna tell you that I think the government should restrict your ability to do that.
Oh yeah, that's more what it came down to. Should the government be able to say no, you can't do that? Because that's
no,
the left libertarian aspect.
No, but I as a private citizen can say ew.
Absolutely. And I do too. It's fucking gross. But
but yeah, like that's I'm pro-gun in the sense that gun restrictions shouldn't be designed to restrict guns from the working class. They should be designed to restrict guns from people who shouldn't have guns.
I agree.
Agreed on that. Yeah.
Like
and I plan on getting one soon because it's getting a little hectic around.
Well,
not around here, not where I live, but I have no idea when it's going to come to where I live. So
yeah, but you see what I'm saying? I don't think the source of a lot of gun control is racist, but that doesn't mean you can't craft non-racist, sensible gun legislation. Like I actually don't know. Is it legal for people who, like, if you have an indefinitely suspended driver's license, can you buy a car?
Probably not. I would say no. Not legally.
I can't. You can't register one, which.
Right, but even most places you would buy a car, not like cash off a lot. You would still have to get a title, which would go through the DMV.
Yeah, which they probably would be like, unless this, like, honestly, they'd probably just be like, unless this is sitting in your garage and you're looking at it.
Unless it's a collector's item, yeah. Because listen, it may sound stupid, but coming from like the math guy, buying a car does not imply you're going to drive the car.
Yes.
Well, no, obviously, but buying a gun doesn't mean you're going to use it. But
exactly.
At the same time, they still want you to have the proper.
You should still have to get a fucking license to have a gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there should be identification processes in place to. I have a different gun control conversation we can have a different time, but I'm glad that we're all kind of on the same page with that.
I just have one comment to make about gun control, not gun control, but guns in general. About where like we all live in a place where it's quote unquote difficult to buy a gun. I have a permit in my drawer downstairs that allows me to buy but one single handgun and as many shotguns and rifles as I want.
Yes.
So Sam, as someone who's gone through this process on a scale of 1 to 10, like 10 being like you had to spread open your cheeks and lift up your sack to get a gun,
like pulling my hair out kind of thing.
Yeah, like you had to go in for a preemptive cavity search, and 1 being like, and 1 being they
handed me the gun.
There was like you said I want a gun, and they said you want a gun. And then some dude, and then some dude on another dude's shoulders with a trench coat that covers both of them opens the trench coat, and it's just full of firearms.
Yeah, I'd say about a 3.
Yeah, which I think that's fair.
I think it was way too easy.
I haven't gone.
I gotta be honest. I'm saying it about myself. I think it was way too easy for me to get that permit.
No, I agree. I was actually looking it up this weekend, and it is incredible. It's only inconvenient. It's not hard.
No, it should be. I didn't have to go through a single psychological exam to get that permit. I had to have 2 people, one of whom was Bill, advocate for me, and that was it. And all they had to do was answer some questions about my mental state. I got no psychological examination. I got nothing. And I walked in, I had to sign a couple things, put my fingerprint on a piece of paper, and that was fucking it.
Wow, that sounds real hard.
And you can tell by our accents that we don't fucking live in the South. So it's not that easy.
Really.
It's not as easy there. There's no gun shows around us. I could just go buy one tomorrow. And I'm going to soon because at some point I'm gonna, like once all the evictions start happening and all the real layoffs start happening, once the rent freeze is over, which it will be very soon, that's when you can start to expect desperate people to come out into the streets.
Well, let's just hope they stay focused on the movement right now.
But yeah.
That's what we really need.
No, see the problem with that is people are going to get hungry.
So
yeah, you can get hungry, but that's when community outreach is going to become incredibly important.
so
I
so
suppose.
Think
Oh,
like
sorry,
Occupy on a
I'm
grand
sorry.
scale.
We got way off our track there. So Bill, continue if you had more to say about your.
I was just gonna recommend you get one of those lever action rifles, not because that they're practical or modern.
I'm gonna get a handgun. I'm gonna get a handgun.
Oh, but Sam, if you get a lever action rifle, then you can do John Wayne shit.
Great.
Which, listen, I don't know if you've seen John.
Yes, it's been my dream of my life to just.
I don't know.
Hey.
I think I might need to beep that part.
Yeah, I'm gonna need you to take that bit out there.
Listen.
I know you're kidding, but other people might not.
I don't know how you feel about John Wayne, Pilgrim, but those movies hold up better than most that are that old.
Fair enough.
Oh,
I'm not denying their artistic merit. I'm denying the moral standing. But okay, did you have any more to say, or is it our next fella's turn?
Guns, polygamy, incest.
Sounds about right for a libertarian point of view.
Hey everybody, it's Billy from Slide to the Left. On my other podcast, Marching West, I'm known as Billy the DM, where I go into how to run a West Marches campaign for Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. So if you're interested in doing that, check out the podcast.
Who are we meeting?
The lady I've been seeing as of late, but not right now because we're doing a podcast. Bill, how was your conversation?
It's fine.
It was fine. All right,
Yeah.
cool.
Seeing like romantically or schizophrenically?
Oh, that's funny. Romantifrenically.
Why not both? Por qué no los dos?
Schizotantically.
Dude, talk about psychosexual.
Oh, nice. Hot. So, I figured we'd get right back on topic. And I just had a little diatribe there. But, so, Bill, I realized the error in the attempt to steel man people's perspectives because only I know both of your positions and both of you know my position. So I have to now do it again for you.
Okay.
But here we go. Let me do my best. So is
Yes.
nominally an anarcho-communist.
Correct.
He believes that probably in more or less the what's the word, the word I'm looking for, not optimal, not what's the word when you say it's useful for something, the working phrase,
pragmatically.
There's a word I'm looking
Practically?
for and I can't think of it. Maybe we'll use it at some point. But
Proletarian.
No. I mean in an effective sense. Like there's the word I'm looking for. I can't. It's an adjective. It's not anything to do with the perspective. But you probably hold to the doing as much or giving what you can and getting what you need. I don't know if you hold to the whole commune aspect of communism. And actually living in communes, but you're of the mind that you want to abolish the state on some level, and you think that through the path of ever incremental moves towards that through socialism, that we can attain a better society by abolishing the state, removing the government, and creating democratically owned businesses that do not get overseen by people that hoard wealth off of the backs of other people.
So I would describe it.
I can't. I will admit I do not know as much about your perspective as I do Bill's, simply because I've had more conversations with him. But
yours sounds more communist than anarcho-communist, and that's fine because that's more people understand. I would describe it more as a ideology that seeks to destroy unjustified hierarchies, which include capitalism, and
as a whole.
As a whole, yeah, the capital system that we understand as we understand it now cannot exist under an anarcho-communist society because there's just too much unjust hierarchies that occur.
Clarifying question.
Sure.
Do you want to get rid of the entire idea of monetary exchange?
So that's a big question that anarcho-communists and anarcho-syndicalists differ on. So
please explain what that is, by the way.
So an anarcho-syndicalist and an anarcho-communist really only differ majorly on the existence of markets. So if you look at like the Spanish Civil War, the largest group was the anarcho-syndicalists.
Let's
They
just
were
go
the
with
biggest.
ANCOM and ANSYN from now on.
Fine, that's
That
fine.
way
ANSYN, they were the main anarchist group for the Spanish Civil War, and they had a very well functioning, like as brief as it was, society of, they had markets, they had egalitarian control over the farms and production. So the only difference between them and an ANCOM would
is
be,
this the is this what Catalonia used to be?
yes, yeah.
Yeah,
So that's
I
what
remember hearing about this.
existed very briefly until it was betrayed by the fucking communists. Anyway, so the only difference between them and like an ANCOM would be we question whether markets are even necessary for the distribution of goods.
And I would say that's probably where you and I diverge the most, because I'm no
Right.
libertarian, but I have the perspective that I think resource-based economy is probably not the idea of bartering without any sense of the equal trade of objects that can be standardized for everyone. I probably don't agree with that, but maybe
That's
you don't.
totally
Maybe you
cool.
don't either. But
No, I mean, I just find that we've been existing like that, and it's been so hard. There's been almost no ability for us to shake inequality and like guarantee equality and no sort of hierarchy without destroying some sort of market. The closest we had was Catalonia, and it fucking got dismantled before we could even really see what potential it had.
fair
So
enough.
I'm not completely unopen to the idea of anarcho-syndicalists. I think I bounce between the two more than anything because I'm a practical person, so I'm going to go for what works. But ideally, I move towards. I would prefer to lean too far left than not left enough, if that makes
Fair
sense.
enough. Fair enough. Okay. Anything else you wanna hash out about your perspective, just to clarify as much as you can?
Well, I think it's important to know what I mean by the state writ large. Like, anarchists aren't opposed to organization. We just adopt a system of mutual association as opposed to like a top-down force
That's kind of
upon
funny.
people.
That's kind of funny because that's very
What-
libertarian of you.
Yeah, it
and
is. No, well,
libertarianism share a lot.
It
It's
really
true.
does.
It's sort of a horseshoe,
the
isn't it?
biggest difference really comes between the existence of markets and the existence of capitalism as a means of resource allocation. I think that's the biggest difference. That's from my experience of like reading about the libertarians I've spoken to don't seem to acknowledge that. I hope Bill proves smarter.
Don't seem to acknowledge what? Sorry.
Just like how close anarcho-communism or anarchism is to libertarianism, and just like our slight difference over the role of capital and money in
I would
like
love
a
to.
functioning
I'd love
society.
to have you sit down with my dad.
Well,
That'd
because-
be-
well,
talk
It
to
would
him.
be great to speak with your father one day. But
Well, and I would like to point to anybody who's listening to the "What is Anarchism" episode of Stuff You Should Know, because it resonates a lot.
yes.
And they talk a lot about how anarchism, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a very people-forward way of organization. If you want something
is.
done, you just do it.
right.
You don't
right. It's not-
ask the state, because the state is either going to insert a hierarchy where none is needed, or they're
Right.
just gonna bumble it inefficiently. Just do it. Just
Right,
not to
right.
go Shia
And there's
LaBeouf
also-
on
there's-
you, but
Just do
also,
it.
removing the state and like these like fixed laws that the state requires to function because it just needs stability to be a thing. Anarchists find that too rigid because I mean, think about how many laws we would have loved to have changed by now, but it's just impossible to do.
Think about how many laws we shouldn't even have.
Right.
Do-
I mean, it's very silly. It also has to do a lot with mutual association. Like, if you have a community of people who care about each other, you're gonna like people are always like, oh, anarchists, communists are just lazy, they don't want to do shit. It's like it's not about that. Like, I would rather be close with my neighbor and like have a small community than like buy my fucking avocados from some guy in Mexico who's not even being paid enough to fucking pick it for me. You know what I'm saying?
Fair enough.
creates a closeness of association that you don't get when things are controlled by markets.
Exactly.
Right.
I think that's probably the biggest beef I have with global markets, the way that we have them.
Well,
Again,
and,
I don't want to completely write off markets in general, but
and see that's kind of my little love affair with anarcho-syndicalism, is that if I was to ever run a business, I would run it like that, just because I think that that's an effective way of running a business, is to instead of managing people, empower them to just do better.
Like a co-op.
Yeah, I think that that's like, I think that that's just a modern way of running a business. I don't think that you. I can almost see, like, almost in an apolitical sense. Like, I'm not trying to make a statement about anarchism. I just think that's a good business practice.
Yeah.
Fair
I mean,
enough.
well, when Sam and I used to work together, I hope that doesn't give too much away, but when Sam and I used to work together, that
Not
was
at
a
all.
suggestion I gave to our former owner of the store that we worked at, which is that instead of just paying us all these shit wages and we don't give a fuck about this business, if you kind of gave us more of a share of the profit of the store, we would, one, care a lot more, and also, like, because then we wouldn't have to, like, put in 60 hours a week to just, like, live.
Also work a lot harder.
Right. Like, I would feel like I'm actually working for something, like,
For less
myself
time.
instead of
For
just
less time.
Yes,
for less time, right?
that's the big one, because it's when
What a
when you
finite
pay
resource.
when you pay people by time, you incentivize taking time.
Right.
Which, if you can incentivize better work, which, like, if you incentivize people by time, they tend to take longer. But if you incentivize people with money, they'll tend to do something better.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
So now is the weird situation. Both of you know my perspective, more or less. I'd like to hear what you have to say, both of you, about it.
Would you like to start?
I'm gonna be less good at it.
That's
'Cause
fine.
I don't actually
That's fine.
listen to Sam most of the time. I'm just kidding.
I also have to bleep your name again. Thanks,
Oh.
Bill.
Oops.
It's okay.
Goodness.
I have to listen to them anyway because I have to edit them, so it doesn't matter.
Goodness. All right. Well, you are a democratic socialist, correct?
Social
Correct me.
Democrat.
That's social democrat. I'm just always gonna mix those two up.
It's
such
okay.
a
It's okay.
weird-
One of them is literally socialism, and one of them is not. One of them is a
Well,
qualifier, and one of them is not.
Well, it's socialism is a broad term. It's
Sure. Fine.
one of them is
and-
democratic
Here,
socialism.
I'll even do you one better. I don't actually know what Bill's title would be, and Ethan, I only know because I feel like your position is frankly a little more extreme than most. So a label is
Yeah, well,
a label
I'm
a
gonna
label
go
does
with-
you good. So
I'm gonna go with just anarchist, and then the qualifier we're gonna leave up for, it's somewhere between syndicalist and communist.
fair
but those
enough.
are the
Fair
two.
enough. So excusing labels. I guess Steelman, what you think my position is.
Well, you definitely believe in, most of the platform that Bernie Sanders put forward, having a strong social safety net, including free public education, free healthcare, expanding Social Security. I believe we could. I don't know. I don't want to assume Bill's position, but I imagine we're probably all relatively, like, non-interventionists when it comes to international politics, which is something we haven't even brought up in terms of our positions. Domestically, I mean, you're definitely, inclusive of all groups, whether color or gender or sexual orientation. And you definitely believe in taxing the 1% more than they're being taxed right now.
You goddamn
So
right.
I'll leave that at that, because then maybe Bill could fill in those blanks.
Yeah, I would say I think you're definitely someone who sees economic rights as human rights, and I would wager that you'd probably see the best way to move forward to propagate equality for people is to start with economic equality, and that includes means of redistributing wealth, both conventional, such as UBI, and unconventional, such as using wealth tax from billionaires to fund programs that improve social mobility.
I can't say I disagree with any of those things. That's
Nice.
definitely
Anything
me
you
all
want
over.
to add to that?
Yeah, I'm actually surprised I didn't bring up the anti-intervention thing. I guess maybe because it just seems so obvious. Yeah,
I guess we were more focused on domestic.
Get America's nose out of other people's business. As much as I despise the Saudi Arabian empire that's beheading people in the street. I'm sorry, well, that's a bad example because the U.S. is nominally allied with them, so go fuck themselves in that regard.
Ironically.
Okay, sure. there's nothing about our military presence in Afghanistan that admits a stable society. So we should definitely get the fuck out of there. So with regards to non-interventionism, I think that if you want to deal with human rights abuses in other countries, you should have to develop some sort of peacekeeping union of nations that all agree
It's
on
weird.
the way.
I feel like it's a great idea, Sam. I wish someone would have thought of that.
It's almost like we should have this nation union.
Yeah.
We should call it the Nation Union, and they should
like Nation League. I like League.
Listen, I'm not about to pretend that there's not problems with the unions in the world. There's a lot of corruption and top-down bullshit
100%.
that happens, and you need a better. There's just got to be a better way of doing it. If I wanted to, let me think. I don't know. You guys hit a lot of good nails right on their heads. Let me think. I'd like to highlight the fact that I very much agree with the idea of left libertarianism, in the sense that you should be allowed to do absolutely whatever you want with your own corpus, your corpus callosum.
So
Only
you're
corpus.
like drugs.
You should be able to
marijuana
put whatever
and such.
substance into your body that you want.
I agree.
You should be able to have sexual intercourse with whatever consenting adults you want. You should be able, with however many there are. You should, there's nothing that I can think of off the top of my head that I think the government should have any say in what you do with your own body and other consenting adults that also agree with that. To take it to the absolute extreme, if we had to pick an extreme example, you should have every right to want to end your own life.
Yes. Yeah. I mean,
you should be required to show psychological soundness, and I think that, that should probably have gone along with. There's caveats to the whole cannibalism thing, but I'm not about to do that, and I might even edit that out. But I'm just giving an extreme example.
I would say in answer to both of them, though, like somebody else judging whether you are of sound body and mind to make that decision is invasive, right? Like, how can you judge a person who's like, for euthanasia is a good example, because that's like the biggest thing now in this type of debate is like, how do you judge like whether this person who's been dying of cancer for 8 years of their life and just wants to fucking die is of sound body and mind? Like, you could never understand the pain and suffering that they've gone through to the point where they are just like, yo, fuck, I'm done with it. You know what I'm saying?
Fair enough.
That's not a mindset that you can understand. So it's the same thing with somebody who's like, yeah, I'm willing to let this person kill me and devour me as part of a sexual fantasy. Like, you're never going to understand that mindset. So to like, I don't know. It's like a weird
unless
thing
you're one
to
of
say.
them.
It's like, unless you're one of them, and if you're one of them, you're probably not going to be around for very long to justify the other person's position. So,
can I kind of give you a little bit more, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Reflexive libertarian perspective on that?
Sure.
At what point does self-harm violate the principle of non-aggression? At what point do you become a victim of yourself?
That's a very good question, but I don't know if we're able to judge that because
there are people that enjoy pain. I mean, you can't tell them that they're wrong for feeling a certain way about harming themselves.
So I'm thinking specifically in the case where someone with treatable mental illness is seeking to end their own life.
Right.
At what point?
You step in?
Yeah. Well, it's you have to make that consideration. Is this person a victim of their own mental state, and therefore shouldn't be given custody of themselves?
That's a great question, and I feel like I can answer that while amending something that you said before as well. So you mentioned, damn it, you mentioned that how could anybody else judge your sound mind? I don't think the perspective of psychological what's the word? Psychological evaluations for people that say want to end their own lives is necessarily for the purpose of confirming that the person is able to do that. It's to make absolutely sure that the person administering the substance is not trying to kill that person.
Yeah, it's for the absolution of
that they are making their own decision to die.
Yeah.
No, absolutely, and there's definitely a problem with you can you can definitely change a person's mental states most of the time. But like even if we just assume like they went through every single process and channel properly based on what we have established as the best possible judge of that mental state, and they come out on the other side and still want to end their life, then you're
Yep.
dealing with something that you can't change, because what our system then does is put them in a mental institution.
Well,
right?
I think you
wrong.
should. I
They,
think
like,
as a general psychological and Hippocratic rule, you should value human life over not life. And so, if you exhaust every capability, and this person says, "I would like to die for my own lack of suffering," then I don't know. It's a really tricky tricky conversation to have. You know, you could take it to the extreme, like they don't have any immediate family members that are going to miss them. You know, in that instance, it's like, okay, this should be like a medical procedure then. You know, like this person should be given
Right.
a pill
So-
by a doctor that allows them to peacefully fall asleep, as opposed to,
Can I
you know,
present
taking
an-
out the messy way or anything like that.
Can I present an interesting option of a thought that I like always have? So like back, even just I think it was like 150 years ago, people were able to duel to the death, like
Yeah.
willingly as consenting adults,
Yeah.
and they outlawed it.
So the social ramifications of that were such that while, yes, it was indeed legal to duel to the death, in the vast majority, and when I say vast majority, I mean 99.9+% of the time, it was a symbolic gesture. People would just fire their shots in the air as a show of virtue to show that I am mad at you, but I am also I also value your
Afraid of the consequences that is
no,
going to happen.
It's like I am upset with you, so I wanted to challenge you, but I do not think that your life is so worthless that I'm going to end it over this. But I want you to know that I have considered it. So
Fair
it's
enough.
so
But
dual.
the question
Yeah.
No, the question I raise is like, should two consenting adults be able to, like, willingly of sound body and mind enter into a duel to the death? So should they choose to do that?
That's a good question. That's a great question.
Because that's something I wonder all the time. It's like, yes, you could imagine that they're of sound body and mind, right? But like, in what world are we, like? Because we just can't, it's like so beyond something that we can even imagine.
I was just gonna say,
like,
no, it's so big. I've literally never thought of the scenario. Like, I understand there's gladiatorial things in the past and whatnot, but those were more or less slaves, right? Yeah, forced
Yeah.
to do it. I've never, because I'm thinking like, and I haven't even thought about dueling in that way, right? It's two adults consenting to potentially kill the other person. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Right.
kind of fucked up. I've never thought about it in that context. That's a really good question.
I think
I
if
don't know
you-
how to. I have no idea how to answer that question.
So we should meditate on that, because I think if you can answer that one, and I still can't answer it.
Well, I think
that's pretty much it. Like,
well, I think you bring
go
up
ahead,
an
Bill.
interesting.
That's pretty much it.
Well, I think you bring up an interesting point because dueling is bodily dangerous. Because dueling is bodily dangerous because someone else might kill you. But something
Right.
like base jumping or squirrel suit jumping is bodily dangerous because you might die. Well, why is the danger worse because it's coming from another human?
Right.
Maybe
It's
because
like,
there's no
they
maybe
don't-
because there's no guarantee that they would stop. There's no way to stop the occurrence.
Well,
I don't know.
it's like people assume that, like, first of all, you sign a waiver before, let's say, skydiving. That's probably the most extreme example of like a thing you could do that will totally just like one malfunction and you're dead, right?
Yeah.
So like you sign a waiver that your family is not going to sue the company in the event that your parachute does not deploy and you plummet to your death.
Yeah.
Right. So like, do you take a mental evaluation before you go skydiving? Like, obviously
to make sure
not,
that you're going to pull the chute.
Right. Like, obviously nobody's assuming that you're going skydiving to end your life by the purpose of not pulling the parachute. But why? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how
What a way to go,
make
right?
that judgment. Well, hell yeah. I mean, if you're going to do it that way. Fuck. Get a nice view. You pretty much can't go back. I mean, it depends. You can take the parachute and always have a.
Have you ever heard of,
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't be allowed to get on the plane if you didn't have a parachute.
No, have you ever heard of bonsai skydiving?
No.
It's
But
where
I
it's
can infer.
you got to hear about this. This is important. It's where you take the parachute, you throw it out of the plane, and then you jump after it.
and chase
Oh, like
it.
they did in the
Holy
Power
fuck.
Rangers movie.
Yeah.
Holy fuck, dude. Fuck that. Oh, because you gotta like, yo, what if you speed past it? I guess you gotta
sounds like a
flatten
problem,
yourself
right?
out and slow down.
Dude, I don't know.
That's fucked up. But okay, what was the whole? Okay, god damn it. All right, we are really tangential, aren't we? So
Third
the whole reason
episode.
that
Yes.
the whole reason that we wanted to steel man each other's perspectives was to establish our perspectives on like general politics in general, to then get on the topic of voting. Hey, sports fans, it's Sam from Slide to the Left. If you find yourself interested in mathematics in any capacity or feel like you want to learn some cool ins and outs of the world of analysis and geometry and all that, then you should check out my YouTube channel, What the Hectagon. That's WHAT space THE space HECTOGON. Check it out. Maybe subscribe, throw me a couple likes, and we'll see. I might buy you dinner after that. So, who will you, gentlemen, be voting for, if you know, in the general election of 2020?
I mean, I'm gonna vote for Joe Biden. I really hate to say it, because I don't like him. I don't.
Why?
I don't like
Why don't you like him?
I
Why
mean,
don't you like him?
there's nothing to like about Joe Biden. He represents everything that I didn't want to vote for Hillary Clinton about, except it's worse because he's an old man who just seems not completely coherent when he speaks. And he recently
not completely is a very large understatement.
Yes, it very well. I only say that because recently he's been completing his sentences, but his sentences are horrifying because he said that maybe instead of shooting these protesters in the heart or these people in the heart, they should, if their police are being attacked, they should shoot them in the leg because that's obviously the better option.
Duh.
Dude, the amount of my leg sound bites.
I think
My leg!
Dave Chappelle summed it up very well. He's like, I didn't like what Hillary said, and insert Joe Biden in this time, but I liked it far more than what Trump is saying, if that makes sense. Like, this man has fucking ruined this country. Like, I thought of all the worst case scenarios. I said, oh yeah, it's gonna be bad, but it can't be that bad. And I watched just every possible bad thing happen in just this year. Like, it's fucking crazy. Yeah, it's some wild times. But I think the important thing is that whether or not, Joe Biden or Donald Trump's election is going to affect me, it's about what it's going to do to other people's lives. Because I think that is far more important. And then there's also the long-term effects of what another Republican president with a potentially Republican-controlled Senate can do in terms of long-term damage to our country's policy making for the foreseeable future. And that, to me, is enough to say, like, and I also just don't think that if Trump loses, which I hesitate to say he's going to at this point, because I need to see what the next couple months is going to look like.
Oh, the most
everything
recent.
could change. Everything could change in a fucking dime, dude.
Everything could change in a heartbeat. Yeah,
the most recent CNN poll has Joe Biden ahead of him by 15 points.
Yeah, but CNN also said Hillary was going to win, so they can eat a dick.
Yeah, and honestly, either of them could die at any moment. So
yeah, and that's the other thing. But my whole thing is like, it's like I don't know how it's going to go yet, but I know that if Trump loses, he's not going to go down without a fight. And I don't even want to give him the option to debate that he lost. You know what I mean? Like, even if I'm really certain that county, actually, I'm in county. You got to bleep all that shit out too.
I know.
But I'm in a different county now, and I'm pretty sure that they also vote blue. And I'm in a state that usually always votes blue in general elections.
Since Bush the first.
Right. And even if it's not always a Democratic governor, because we had.
I'm talking about presidents, but yeah.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying even if I'm relatively certain, I just want to be that that one more voice that's gonna say no to Donald Trump. I don't feel like this is the time for me to be using my vote to my choice of not voting as a political act, which I do believe is a thing that you can do. I'm
glad. Okay, I'm glad that you said that, because
I have some thoughts on that as well.
Not that that's my perspective, but I got, honestly, I haven't gotten much of the impression from you that your perspective is that not voting is even a viable option.
I I don't want to say it's definitely a viable option. It's always a viable option. I didn't vote for the Hillary and Trump.
Oh, yes. I
fucking
remember you
election.
mentioning that. Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't vote for that because I was fucking furious. I was not only I was furious, I was also like, 40 minutes away from my polling place because I was like not registered to vote where I went to college, and that's not even a real. That's an excuse. I didn't plan on doing it because
It's
I
funny.
could
I thought the
not
same thing.
cast a vote for either of them.
Me neither.
But and so in that time, it was a choice. But after what I've seen for the past 3.5 years, it no longer is a choice for you to just be like.
I can't even believe it's been that long.
Right? Isn't it crazy? It's no longer by not saying anything, by not being involved and not voting him out of office with whatever power I have. I feel like it's almost like sitting on the sidelines during a really important moment in American history that I don't want to be like. I don't want my kids ever, if I have them, to look back and be like, "Hey, Dad, did you vote Trump out of office?" And I have to tell them no, and I have to look back on all the shit that he did in a second term if he won. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the way that I look at it. Is I don't want to be that person that sat on the sidelines while this man continued to destroy our country.
Have you ever seen the movie Patton?
No, I haven't.
I have not.
Oh, there's a great speech that he gives at the beginning, and I'm
Wait,
not gonna.
You mean like Patton, like the general, right? Not like Patent, like Edison.
Yeah,
Thomas
Patton the
Edison had,
General,
right?
the movie that's
Okay.
the eponymous movie.
Yeah, no, never seen it.
There's a scene in the movie where he's like, it shows him addressing the troops, but it's literally just him, and he's giving a monologue, and he goes, there's a part where he's like, "We're doing this so that when you got your little grandchild on your lap," and he says, "Grandpappy, what did you do during the Great World War #2? You don't have to look that kid in the eyes and say, 'Well, son, I shoveled shit in Louisiana.'" Like, and that's kind of the way I'm looking at it. Like that, like your statement reminded me of that. Like, I don't want to have to say that. Well, I shoveled shit in Louisiana.
Right. And it doesn't make me happy.
No.
It really doesn't. That man has not, the DNC doesn't deserve my vote. Joe Biden does not deserve my vote. But all the people that are going to be affected by another 4 years of Donald Trump or another 4 years of Republicans controlling the Senate, they deserve my vote.
You don't
more than anybody.
Okay. As much as I don't want to reveal my cards before I go, but I mean, I actually don't know what my perspective is necessarily on this yet, but
and that's fine.
How do you, and there's plenty of months to deliberate, even though it's not the first thing on my mind. How do you feel about the fact that, to sort of sum up Joe Biden's probable efficacy as a president, if he were to win, nothing will fundamentally change? He will continue the endless wars. He will probably ramp up the drug war. He will probably continue children incarceration on the border, since it was his and Obama's administration that started that. He will not pass Medicare for all. In fact, he said that if it were to arrive on his desk after the arduous process of making it through both the House and the Senate, he would still veto it. And at the moment, we're looking at 70 million people potentially with no health insurance. Not that we didn't have a health insurance crisis to begin with. Doesn't believe in a federal jobs guarantee, which is a pie in the sky thing to begin with, and I don't necessarily know that I agree with that. But in the midst of a 100-year pandemic, I kind of think it's probably necessary at this point, since the government did nothing to help any of its citizens other than the filthy rich, of course.
Right.
In light of all these things,
so Sam,
don't you?
Well, yeah, but Sam, who are you going to vote for that's going to help?
I would say if I could choose what would happen, I would say that I wish that most people would be convinced either two things: literally not to vote for anyone. Like, I mean a good large amount of people, like everybody.
You would need such a massive general strike to
if it were possible. If it were possible, I'm saying, I'm not. This is me throwing out my completely idealized circumstance now. So I'm not. I don't believe that this is going to happen for a second. But if an extensive amount of people didn't vote. I mean, you'd only need one person to vote for one guy, right? I mean, that would be the end of it. So
Sam,
literally everyone would have to not vote. That, or more people vote for, I don't know, the Green Party.
I disagree with both of your statements on not voting, because I just think that's a poor way to protest. It's slacktivism without the social aspect.
You know what's interesting? I completely agree with you. And you know what I think would be a better way of going about it?
Going to the polls and writing in Mickey Mouse.
Exactly. You should be
No, we should
every
not give
every single.
Disney any more.
No, of course not.
He
I'm
is.
gonna vote for Tim Cook. No, so what I
go
think
to vote for like just go there and then just or don't vote for president. Vote for Senate, local official.
Oh yeah, no, there's plenty of down ballot stuff to vote for. I as of right now, I think we're all in agreement that the down ballot shit is incredibly relevant and important to all of our lives.
Yeah.
Right now, we're just
so this is
yeah.
No, I just wanted to respond to like what you were saying. Is like obviously Joe Biden is probably not going to do any of those things.
I mean, he's right? Ethan. I don't want to understate this. He is beyond the pale awful. Like he is a horrendous human
listen,
being.
And I'm not. So listen, I'm never going to disagree with that. But what I'm saying is that is he more or less awful than who we have right now, who is definitely not going to do any of those.
Just awful.
Can I tell you why I think Joe Biden's going to be less awful than Trump?
Fair, yeah.
Would you say that the people that Obama surrounded himself with were generally qualified or generally unqualified?
I actually
generally
could not tell you because I was not politically active enough at the time of the
So,
Obama administration.
Well, they were generally qualified, especially compared to what we have right now.
Which is exactly what I'm saying.
I would take a very, very educated guess that they were more than the people now.
Which is, I think that Joe Biden, for all of his numerous faults, I think that he falls under that same umbrella that Obama did of, I'm going to surround myself with generally pretty qualified people. And quite frankly,
getting into contact with the CEOs of banks to tell him who to put in his cabinet, just so you know.
I haven't heard anything about that, but...
Yeah, but Trump has a former Goldman Sachs guy as like the head of the Treasury right now, so that's literally from the bank.
And Joe Biden's trying to get Jamie Dimon from what I believe is Goldman Sachs.
Slight correction, but Jamie Dimon is from J.P. Morgan Chase. Not much better.
To be appointed in his Treasury Department.
And that sucks, Sam. That really does. But you know what?
No, I know.
Really
I'm just trying to draw parallels here because people A, overstate how bad Trump is, and B, understate how horrible Joe Biden is. And I'm
not talking about Joe Biden. I'm talking about the people that Joe Biden is going to appoint to federal positions, mostly the cabinet.
I don't want to mince words here. I don't want to mince words here. Trump is disgusting, and he's far worse than Joe Biden.
I'm not talking about Trump or Joe Biden.
People drastically overstate how.
I'm not talking about
understate how bad Joe Biden is.
I'm not talking about either of them. I'm talking about their potential appointees. And what I'm going to say to you is, I think Joe Biden's going to appoint less corrupt people, and the non-corrupt people aren't going to quit.
I don't agree. Maybe more competent, but not less corrupt. No way in hell.
Well, that's fine, but like having corrupt people who are at least like socially not going to repeal abortion is a better deal than having.
Yeah, I don't think we're getting another 4 years of AG Barr.
Oh, right. I mean, he is just like he's a disgusting flab of shit. I can't even imagine.
I would vote for anybody if they put up a competent attorney general at this point.
Fair enough.
Yes.
Fair enough.
Like that's and I don't think it stops there. I think Joe Biden, for whatever bank people he puts in his cabinet, I don't think that it's going to be the absolute dumpster fire of an administration that this one's been.
I also want to throw out one really important thing.
Yep.
That I think that needs to be like very much considered, considering the situation we find ourselves in right now with mass unemployment, right? And you have all like the biggest mobilization of
You're cutting in and out a little bit there, buddy. You want to repeat that sentence?
Yeah, that's been happening to me like fucking all day. Or I was actually happening to you guys before.
Really? Oh, okay.
But I was gonna say we have like so many people unemployed right now.
13. You know? It's 14%, by the way. I want to correct myself from last time. The 35% figure. That's the service industry specifically. That's what I quoted. Yes.
Regardless, obviously even if you take 10%, that's like 35 million Americans at once, right? So even anything
and
over
there's more to come, boys.
And there's just more to come, right? So you have a large percent of people unemployed, right? They have a lot of time to be politically active, which means if this continues to November, which I don't see Trump having any major federal works program to put these people back to work, because that's
that would be the fucking day, wouldn't it?
Right, it really would.
Dude,
And then I don't see all of these people getting back to work before November because I just don't see that happening. Because where's the money going to come from? And then,
you can't just
not our government.
You can't just pick
Right,
up
so-
where you left off in an economy.
Exactly. So what we have is come November, you're going to have a lot of people who normally would have been working with the time and the anger to go vote, right? Which is super important. And then after the election, because it's not going to happen immediately if let's say Joe Biden wins, right? He becomes president in January, right? He's sworn in. It's not like he's going to immediately put all these people back to work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what you have is 35 to 40 million Americans who are totally free of time to hold their new president accountable to all the promises that he's made, and even more. Really, they actually can make demands at that point because they started making demands right now, and they're actually starting to get some leeway on some of those, depending on the place. Obviously,
Well,
not all across the board.
The time to make demands would have been when, say, Bernie Sanders had any leverage whatsoever.
Well, unfortunately, if Bernie Sanders had still been in the race as he was right now,
Which
leading
he
out
still
there,
should
leading
be.
all these, he should be. Listen, but we can't change that.
Nope, we
It's
can't.
really,
Can we?
Believe me, Bernie to me was a compromise that I was willing to make, obviously, because I'm far more extreme. But Bernie was a good step in the right direction.
It's about the ideas. It's not about him as a person. Hence his phrase,
Right.
not me, us.
Right. And that would have been great. And it sucks that he's not here to kind of take these reins and really ride, because he would ride this fucking polls. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I mean, it would be a landslide if he was in it.
Right.
It was really the primary that was the problem.
Yeah, but here's the thing. And the primary also got hurt by COVID-19 happening in the midst of the
100%,
primary,
100%.
and then corruptly keeping polling stations open despite... Anyway, that's a whole different thing. My point is...
Stupid Tuesday.
You have so many people with nothing to do because they're out of work, but be politically active. And those people can not only go out and vote, so they can be politically active in that way, but then after the fact, they can be politically active in holding their elected representatives accountable to the decisions that they need to be made to better their circumstances. Because if they don't do it, then all you're going to have is just more of these people, more people unemployed with the time to continue to criticize you and march to the street until you do what they want to do. So...
Yeah, I mean, it's the old adage, right? They need us. We don't need them. And I know you know that. I know you think that we don't need them.
Yes, I do think that we don't need them.
Unfortunately, they're not going to go away anytime soon. So.
Well, they're certainly not going to vote themselves out of office.
No. Power does not give up anything easily. I just wanted to make one quick little point about the not voting idea. I think we should have more of what the Australian system does. I don't think we should be able to force people to vote, but I think you should force people to be able to have to show up. I think that if you got there, it would be perfectly fine to say you can say you're not voting for anybody, but you have to go and say that.
Or why don't we just make everyone make automatic registration and vote by mail?
Oh no, that's true. No, absolutely. And so if you don't vote, you get fined.
Yeah,
I think you should actually just make voting days holidays.
Absolutely. No. That's my whole point. Make it as literally effortless as you possibly fucking can. And then say, if you don't vote, if you don't even bother to say, I don't want any of these people, then you lose a bit of money. Sorry. I don't think that's wrong. I'm not of the mind that taxation is theft if it's going to the right things. I think that's probably the way to do it. If you make voting as easy as you can. If you're such a lazy cunt that you can't check a box and mail something in
on a day off,
you don't deserve.
The only problem I can see with that is what if, because obviously there are people that vote now that aren't well informed, and there are people that don't vote that are well informed. But do you want a shit ton of people who are completely ambivalent under threat of fine to just cast a vote for whoever the fuck?
Well, they don't have to cast a vote. They just have to show that they
considered it. I'm saying there should be an option on every single voting thing to say I choose none of these people.
Okay, fair enough.
But you have to pick something.
Dude, it's just a picture of Marshawn Lynch.
Who's that?
Is the guy who said I'm only here so I won't get fined?
Not from what?
The NFL.
Oh, I don't remember I don't know.
Dude, he showed up to like a post game press interview,
And he was just like, I don't want to be here. I'm just here so I don't get fined.
Every time someone from the press asked him a question, his answer was, "I'm only here so I won't get fined." And he, like, after about 3 minutes, like, he's like, someone asked him a question and he started like switching up the case. He's like, "I'm only here so I won't get fined. I am only here so I won't get fined. I'm only here so I won't get fined." Like,
and I have one more question about, because you
Sure.
on sort of the point, and I won't say that the thought of the whole understatement, overstatement about how terrible these two candidates are is an original idea with me, because I do watch a lot of probably, I would say, socially democratic, nominally, commentators, news commentators. What you said, the whole idea of like taking away abortion rights, for example, as a good example. Don't you think? And
I
feel
don't
free
usually
to
know.
nice. Feel free to tell me that I'm wrong. I'd love to know.
You're wrong.
But don't you don't you think that if the Trump administration was going to curtail abortion rights, that they would have already?
They have done major things to roll back in relatively
I know that particular states
southern
have.
states. Federally, they could not do it without a Supreme Court ruling. So that's why they haven't done it, because the Supreme Court only accepts certain cases at a time when they want to make a judgment about that.
Fair enough.
And as far as I understand, nothing has made it up to the Supreme Court regarding abortion. But you better fucking believe that if Trump gets another term and Ruth Bader Ginsburg fucking kicks the bucket, because she's fucking holding on with dear life right now, she kicks the bucket and they throw another fucking Republican in there. Soon as anything with abortion comes up, it's kicking right up to the Supreme Court, and they're going to do whatever the fuck they want with it. And that is incredibly dangerous.
I agree.
And that's the way, I mean, because all they can do right now is, on a state level, make abortion more difficult. They can pull funding. They can, put up roadblocks to make it more difficult, so that
I mean, it's
people
hardly
have
even
to
a right at this
drive
point,
100 miles to get to a clinic. And then on top of it, they make them have to carry the same doctor, and that's like nearly impossible. And they have all these ways of making it difficult. So making it illegal is one thing. Making it difficult is another thing.
It's effectively
it's
the
kind
same.
of like it's effectively the same thing, right? Yeah. So it's kind of like, even if they basically settled for like, okay, well, we can't make it federally illegal right now. We don't have that type of power to push that through. We're just going to make it really fucking difficult. And people who are economically challenged, they're going to be the ones that are going to be affected the most. It's the same if you made it illegal. Rich people are still going to fucking get that shit. It's just poor people that won't be able to get it.
You're absolutely right.
So
you're right. I agree. You're right. Bill,
So
did you
that's
have
my
something
2
to say?
cents on that.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so then, what's the end game then? Like, so say we have Trump for another 4 years.
I can't even say it now. They're probably watching me.
Dude, you went full robot on that one for me.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Was I just like, nah?
Yeah. It sounded like Glitch Mob.
So say we did have Trump for another 4 years, right?
What's the Senate? Because that's what's important.
I know, but okay, all right, Palpatine. So fair enough. I don't know the way that the Senate's going to go. For the sake of simplicity, just for a second.
But I can't answer the question, unfortunately, because there's no simple answer about it.
I would
actually
I don't agree, and I think I can convince you why you can't actually just take that as a hypothetical, because the president has, at this point, not this this particular president, because he's the one who's president now, but the office of the president has such undue power now.
That's only because the people that he's put in charge are not holding him accountable. Like, if the Democrats
I just mean legally. I just mean
accountable.
legally speaking, and I know Bill will probably attest to this, because he's
I
educated me on the perspective of FDR, like, and I'm all about like the New Deal FDR perspective and taxing the rich up the ass. But he definitely attributed more power to the president than I think is due. And Bill, you can make that point if you'd like, because you're probably well more versed on it than I am.
I'm a bigger fan of the parliamentary system.
Just like my father.
Yeah, your dad, for the stuff that your dad and I disagree on, we agree on quite a lot, and the big one is parliamentary system. or one of the big
So
ones.
so elaborate on that point, because I think you're better explaining it. Like,
Well,
I think the office of the president is incredibly powerful. It's the most powerful position in the world at this point. I mean,
so the president is supposed to be
astounding.
The president is supposed to be the executive of the United States. That means that that means that they take what Congress produces and they execute it. And they do this through the State Department, the various cabinet positions. It's when the president starts becoming someone who can do things unilaterally via executive order that the balance becomes disrupted. Because so, like, for example, an executive order can be undone by an act of Congress or another executive order, but acts of Congress are slow, and executive orders will only change term to term, because very rarely will a president undo their own executive order. In countries with the parliamentary system, there is still a president. The president is the person that affirms the power of parliament. They call the parliament into session. They have veto power over the nominations of parliament. And the president in a parliamentary system is still elected by the people. So if the people don't like who parliament is nominating for positions, the president can veto that. And so the people get a say in parliament from the top down via the president. But in a parliamentary system, the executive power rests with a prime minister, who is someone appointed from the majority party of the parliament to act as the first of among equals, essentially. And that person, the prime minister, they then choose other ministers, other elected officials, to serve as what we would consider cabinet members. And these people, they have to be confirmed by the parliament, and in most but not all cases, they have to be confirmed by the citizen elected president. So the reason that I'm for this system is because you can vote out cabinet members, because the cabinet members are elected officials, and you don't. It cuts down on it cuts down on corruption a lot. And because the president is someone who has veto power rather than legislative power, the people have a say in what not to do, but the democratic process isn't hamstrung by indecision at the legislative level or unilateral action at the executive. And I know if someone's listening that I definitely didn't get that exactly right, but that's the gist.
It's a complicated issue, and I knew he would be better at explaining it.
No, I mean, yeah, complicated is a good explanation of that. And I mean, yeah, that sounds far superior.
Canada.
In terms of accountability and involvement than what we have right now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, my whole point was, because the president has such power, it's not an empty hypothetical to just start with if he has 4 more years, because that's all I wanted to start off with.
So I want to. It's not an empty hypothetical, but I do think that ignoring the checks and balances that should be happening right now, that aren't happening right now, or have not been happening as they should be happening.
Okay, I'll do you one better then.
And this is wait, but this is a trend for presidents since the beginning. Every president, because the power of the president is power of influence, right? They have the ability to influence their party. It sucks that we only have a 2-party system, obviously, but that started from the beginning too. But they basically
No, it didn't. There was more than 2 parties at the beginning of the inception.
But the way that the Constitution's organized incentivizes 2 parties.
Oh, I completely agree. But there were not 2 parties at the start of the.
There were 2 parties in the very beginning, and then there was other ones that were thrown in because they hated certain people.
Ethan's right.
Okay.
It was the Federalists and the Jeffersonian Democrats, and then the Federalists fell out and the Whigs came in. Then the Jeffersonian Democrats just became the Democrats, then the Whigs fell out and the Republicans came in that opposed slavery, roughly.
Okay, fair enough. I stand corrected.
Right. But this is my point, right? Like, so every president since the first time we had a president, like, pushed the boundaries a little bit more on like what a president could do and be held accountable for, right? Like, a good example of that would be when Andrew Jackson said that he was going to like basically march all of these Native Americans across the continent and like relocate them. And the Supreme Court was like, you can't do that. And he was like, well, I already sent the army to do it. So like, you're kind of shit out of luck. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yes.
that was him pushing it. Like the government literally told him, a branch of the government told him he can't do it. And he was like, well, I already did it. So, hold me accountable. And they didn't. They put him on a $20 bill. You know what I'm saying? So like presidents have always been pushing the boundaries. It's up to not only the government, but then the people when the government can't to hold them accountable. It just so happened that everybody was incredibly racist towards Native Americans. If they try to do that now, it wouldn't work out the same way, I hope.
Well, see, I think the system of checks and balances, it was the first United States Congress, the one where Senate President was John Adams, and the Speaker, like, there was between 22 and 26 senators because states getting added, or states ratifying the Constitution, rather, and between 59 and 65 members of the House. There's 4 times as many senators, and there's now 435 members of the House. Right. So, informing consensus does not get easier as your group gets larger.
Oh, I'm not saying it is. So I'm just simply arguing that because, like, people right now, right? Trump was able to put a lot of his people in power.
Yep.
Right, and the people that he put in power are the ones that are also supposed to kind of be keeping him in check.
Yep.
Sometimes, and then there's also the fact that when he makes Roger Stone, when he basically urged the Department of Justice to not be so tough on him, and then all those prosecutors fucking resigned. That's the wrong thing that should be happening. Those people shouldn't have resigned, because then those positions get to be filled by the ruling party.
Yep.
Right? And now that ruling party has more people on their side in the Department of Justice, which is supposed to keep the executive branch in check.
The problem is they made it part of the executive branch.
Right. It just kind of fucking falls apart really quickly. And then we kind of just sat back and just we kept thinking every day, this is the breaking point. This is the breaking point. This is the breaking point. And just not doing it until now. We waited until we had a pandemic that he called a hoax. And then 30 million Americans lost their jobs. And then they killed another person on camera. You know what I'm saying? We waited until there was until somebody had shook that bottle of champagne up really hard and then put it in a car in a drum of gasoline and lit it on fire. They really gassed it on this one.
Yeah.
Really.
Quite. That's what it. Well, see, that's the thing. We don't live in France. And I'm not. That's not a dig at the French people. They will riot over anything. And I admire that about them.
Did you ever see the video of the French dudes who worked at an airport and they went on strike because the CEO refused to give them a raise, and so when the CEO's plane landed, they all basically broke down the fence and attacked him?
Good.
Fucking phenomenal shit.
That sounds like the society that I would want to live in.
You mean you're speaking about France? Yeah. It's Canada sans politeness.
Amazing. Amazing. We're not sorry.
All right, guys. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to say one more thing. One more thing before we go, because I actually have to bounce relatively soon as well. The abject disregard for my fellow citizens' First Amendment rights in the last week, based on the president's desire to instate U.S. military into the U.S. cities, pretty much a domestic invasion, and use them for a photo op for a Bible in front of a church that he's never attended, has swayed me slightly, not slightly, quite a bit, in the direction of, I will say, voting against Donald Trump. Not that I was ever going to vote. No. But it's. I mean, I've never seen such an egregious attack on my fellow Americans' right to peacefully protest than I did on that day. And that was what I meant when I said that I'm being swayed, because that was heartbreaking.
Well, that is the best place to end that shit right there.
I agree.
Guys, how you end. This has been Slide to the Left. I'm Bill. That's Sam. That's the Electric Thong. And we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye now.
I hope you like the new theme song. We didn't record an outro, did we? We didn't record.
No, we didn't. Fuck you. Mwah. Bye, Craig.
Bye, Craig. We should end every episode with bye, Craig.